Heart attack. Most certainly, you had known someone who died of or has suffered from this medical condition. It's a serious one. Cardiovascular diseases, meaning diseases of the heart and the circulatory system, is what large part of world's population is suffering from. Some of the symptoms can be shortness of breath, dizziness, cold sweat, heartburn, nausea, and chest pain, and tiredness together with radiating pain to the left arm. And why is that, you might be asking? We will dive into it very soon. Well, first, we need to talk about what is a myocardial infarction of the cardiac muscle. The cardiac muscle, like other organs, has its own arteries that supply it with oxygen. These arteries are called coronary arteries. The heart has a really high demand for oxygen, cause it must be constantly active. Once the activity stops, you're done. You must have already heard of cholesterol before. This is a compound similar to fat, which we can get from food, usually from animal products such as meat, dairy products, liver, etc., and our body produces it itself as well. We certainly need this compound to some extent, but many of us have an excess amount of it. You may have heard that we have two types of cholesterol, the so-called LDL, meaning low-density lipoprotein, sometimes referred to as the bad cholesterol, and HDL, the high-density lipoprotein, sometimes referred to as the good cholesterol. And what does each of them do? What are their functions? In fact, they have a somewhat counterproductive effect. The LDL stores in the walls of the vessels, which can be a problem because it reduces the area of blood flow through the blood vessels, thus creating blood pressure that is higher than it was before. From a physics point of view, imagine it as a flow of the same volume through a smaller area. The area where the blood in the vessels can flow through is smaller, precisely because of the deposition of LDL in these vessels. On the other hand, HDL removes LDL from the walls of the vessels. Therefore, every time you receive the results of a blood test, look not only at the total concentration of cholesterol in the blood, but also at its individual components. This most often happens because of a blood clot, which could have formed anywhere else in the body. The blood clot then travels through the circulatory system and gets stuck in the coronary artery and clogs the artery. As a result, oxygen does not reach the heart muscle and necrosis of the cardiac muscle occurs. If flow is not restored within about 2 hours, these changes can be irreversible. Since the heart is healing with a scar, it will never function the way it did before. Synchronization of the contractions of its individual parts is very important for its correct function. As a result, your heart may no longer be able to pump blood as efficiently through the body, and it may result in heart failure. In other cases, dangerous atrial or other fibrillations can occur. Here you can see the nervous system, consisting of the central nervous system, composed of the brain and the spinal cord, and also the peripheral nerves. Let's take a closer look at one of the spinal cord segments and its anatomy. As you can see, in each segment of the spinal cord, the neurons are grouped into several parts. It is formed by a posterior and anterior root, a common trunk, and then it divides again into anterior and posterior branches. In the posterior root, we can find sensitive fibers, both somatosensitive, that means that the fibers in here are carrying signals of feeling from the skin and various body surface receptors, and also viscerosensitive, carrying sensitivity from internal organs and their receptors. On the other hand, the motor component located in the anterior root, carrying the information for the skeletal muscles, this is the somatomotor component, and the visceromotor component, which controls the smooth muscle cells of organs and also our cardiac muscle. When an infarction of the cardiac muscle takes place in our heart, this information is perceived by the viscerosensitive nerves of the heart and sent further to the nervous system to the posterior roots of our spinal cord segment. What is also found in the posterior roots are somatosensitive fibers. The nerve impulses can jump from the viscerosensitive fiber to the somatosensitive fiber, and suddenly we feel pain also on the ulnar side of the left arm. This phenomenon does not only occur in connection with the heart, but also with other organs, especially in areas on the surface of the body, where the pain radiates. We call these zones the head areas.